I ain't the kind to wear a tie. Button up from 9 to 5. I tried that life but said goodbye. I'm not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says the world can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we got Devin.
Hey!
And we have Edquist, and you obviously heard Matilda during the intro music.
Yeah, she was singing along.
Yeah, okay, we'll pass that off. Sure, I'll let you slide this time, Matilda. So, boys, first off, how's your week going?
Yeah.
Meh from Rob. What about you, Devin?
A week.
What's that?
It's a week.
It's a week.
Every week,
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
quarantine part is terrible.
Well,
I don't want to say it's bad. I don't want to say it's good. It's a week.
well, Matilda thinks it's bad.
No, totally you're wrong.
So this week, Devin, you wanted to do this on this. I don't know what you call them. Are they called creepypastas?
Yeah, they're called creepypastas.
Okay. Now you normally listen to this on YouTube or something.
Yep.
Okay. Now is the YouTube channel name Creepypasta or is
The two people I usually listen to the most of, but there's a lot of people who do like creepypasta narrations. But the two people I listen to the most is Dark Somnium and Mr. Creepypasta.
okay?
I think Mr. Creepypasta is probably the biggest
All right.
of the two, but the biggest of all of them. But I mean, I do like there's Mr. Creeps, there's Creeps McPasta. But I think my personal favorite is probably Mr. Creepypasta, and then Dark Somnium.
Okay. Now the particular. Okay, so explain to me, because I don't know, what is a creepypasta? Let's start there.
Creepypasta was an old website, I believe. I'm gonna get the actual history of creepypasta.
All right. While you
So,
do that, hold on. I will say, disclaimer, I do have a fan running in the background. It's kind of on a swivel, so every so often it's going to pass by me. And if it picks up on my audio, I'm sorry, but it's hot as balls in this house, and the fan's going to stay running. So, there it is. Go ahead.
All right. So, creepypastas, straight from Wikipedia, creepypastas are horror-related legends or images that have been copied and pasted around the internet. These internet entries are often brief, user-generated paranormal stories intended to scare readers. They include gruesome tales of murder, suicide, and other world occurrences. According to Time magazine, the genre has had its peak audience in 2010 when it was covered by the New York Times.
So it's essentially scary stories.
It's effectively just scary stories, but it got its name creepypasta because they're posted on the internet, and one of the like internet things of like you just copying stories and pasting them, or copying things and pasting it over and over again is called copypasta.
Copypasta.
So, yeah, so it just became creepypasta.
Okay.
So
all right. That
that's
makes
kind
sense.
of how they got its thing.
It's basically like scary stories generated by people. Like, it's not like big authors and stuff. It's just like, okay, random people are like posting scary stories. Kind of.
Yeah, and then every now and again you get these people who post like really long, good stories, like Jeff the Killer, Ted the Caver, Slenderman, some of the Slenderman stuff that's been on there, Candle Cove. You know, you get those kind of ones that are actually like pretty cool.
Okay.
And those are usually longer stories. This is another one of the longer stories that we're talking about today.
Right. So the one that you wanted to talk about today is called the left-right game.
Yes.
Now, you started talking to me a little bit about this last week, and I will say I'm intrigued by the concept of things like this. So the whole premise of the game is hop in a car or whatever, and you're only allowed to take, once you start driving, you have to take the first left-hand turn you come across, then the first right hand, then the first left hand, so on and so forth, until you make so many turns that after X amount of turns, you'll start seeing things, and things will just start getting weird, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like an urban legend or
I
some
believe
shit.
it's 43 turns. I could be wrong on that. I believe it's 43 turns.
Now, I was intrigued by this, and you sent the link, and I started listening to it, and like I was telling Edquist, I am intrigued. Like I liked so far. Like I'm not gonna lie to you or the listeners. I made it 2 episodes through, like 2 full episodes, and then like I started the third, and then I really couldn't. Out of 10, I believe you said there was 10. Because at first I was like, oh yeah, no, I'll have this left-right game one done. I thought the first episode was just the left-right game, and then the other ones were just other shorter stories too. And then you're like, no, all 10 of them are it's a continuation story. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And by the end of the second
I want you to
episode,
listen to. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I just thought about it, and I'm going to forget it if I don't mention it. Because this one you didn't necessarily like. Another one I do want you to listen to at some point which is gotta do it on YouTube, is I dared my best friend to ruin my life.
okay,
And the whole thing is, I dared my best friend to ruin my life, and he's succeeding, I believe, or he succeeded. Hold on. I dared my best friend to ruin my life. Yes, it's about 2.5 hours long. For Mr. Creepypasta, he's the guy who narrated. Well, he's one of the guys who narrated it. He did it best in my opinion. Definitely listen to it. I think that one is also really good and not per se supernaturally creepy.
well, it's
in the
not
sense
only
of, like,
necessarily supernaturally creepy stuff, just creepy stuff in general gets
well, no,
to me.
like, so
Like,
okay,
I don't
so,
like
this
creepy
not
things.
creepy. Like, this not creepy. This is not creepy. Like, the premise is in the title. I dared my best friend to ruin my life. So literally, that story starts with I think they're like teenagers, and they were like, "Hey," he was just like, "Hey, dude, let's do it. Let's play a game or whatever." Like, one of them suggested like that they play a game where they actively try to ruin each other's lives to make themselves like achieve better, right? Kind of thing. To make them like shoot above the moon, to basically put pressure on them, if I remember it correctly off the top of my head. And then one takes it way more seriously than the other one.
Okay.
Like, I think one guy ends up on drugs, arrested for murder.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like like he escalates it like really good. That's another one that should definitely be a movie. I think that'd be a really cool movie. But yeah, that one I think you'd like a lot. That one really could. I do like that one too.
All right, I will give that one a listen, but I will tell I'm going to fess up to you and the listeners. I only made it through 2 episodes of this one. I got creeped out, and part of the reason that I got creeped out is so the site that you sent us does like the spatial sound thing where it's like if somebody's talking and it's supposed to be talking in your left ear, you'll only hear it in your left headphone. And then if it's spatial, if it moves, it'll move over to your right headphone, right? So it gives you that sense of like there is somebody right there with you, and like in the first episode, we'll go through. You and Rob can definitely talk to it at length. But in the first episode, there was a lady that they passed who was just who was like screaming and bashing her head in through a mirror. I was like, okay, that's fucked up, but sure, okay. And then the second episode was all about picking up a hitchhiker, and there's like certain rules I'm gathering with some of these things. Like the hitchhiker guy, you had to pick him up, and you could not talk to him. No matter what he said, you're not supposed to talk to this guy. And it got fucking weird, like creepy. Like he'd be talking and he seemed like an all-around nice person. Like he seemed very genuinely like appreciative and whatnot. And then all of a sudden he'd just like say something in a low tone and then start talking back in his normal voice again. And I just couldn't handle it. And by the end of it, there was like a radio narrator, like kind of prepping you for the next episode. And there was some like weird like noises and screams and shit happening on the radio. I couldn't do it. I tap out. I don't handle scary well. And And that really, for whatever reason, that one got to me. It's sometimes it's the dumbest things that really get to me. Like on 13 Ghosts, there's only 2 scenes in that whole movie that I really remember that stick to my mind, and that's the one, the naked chick in the tub who looks up at him, and then the chick with her head in like the steel cage that just starts running down the hallway at him. I was like, nope, all right, I'm good. It's the end of that. You know, I watched the movie I think it was The Ring. Is that the one where she crawls out of the TV at the end?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so I watched The Ring all the way through to the end. Hell, I found some scenes on that downright funny. Like I'd chuckle. I find myself chuckling during that movie. And then at the very end, when she crawls her fucking wet-haired ass out of the fucking TV, I shut my TV off. I was like, I'm done with that movie. I don't need to finish it. I don't know. I mean, I watched the whole rest of the movie. I knew, you know, why did that one part really get to me? You know, I guess I just have odd triggers, but yeah, I'll hand it over to you guys. And
Before we move on about The Ring, I went to a haunted house shortly after The Ring came out, and they scared the crap out of me. They had like this, because normally they don't get me very much. Every once in a while, I'll like jump or whatever, but I actually, because I enjoy getting scared and I enjoy haunted houses, so I go to a lot.
ugh,
So they had this slide where you slid down and you slid down into the well.
Yeah.
What I thought was a doll of her squished against the wall, like above you, and her hair was like all out and perfectly matched, like sliding through the bricks. So it looks like a freaking doll. It turned around and jumped off the wall at me. I fucking screamed.
nope. See, like I'm sure you guys both have seen those videos of like people getting on elevators, and all of a sudden like the lights will go out, and like people will move the panels around, the lights will come on, and then there'll just be like this creepy fucking thing in the elevator with you.
Mhm.
No. If that ever happened to me, I'm sorry. I would kick the shit out of whatever just popped in the elevator with me. They would just be getting a boot to the chest, and I'd be trying to get the fuck off that elevator. And then I'd feel super bad when everyone was like, "Oh my god, you know, it was just a joke. Why'd you do that?" It's like, why the fuck do you think I would do that?
It was little Timmy from down the street.
I don't
fucking
give a
caved
fuck.
his chest in.
People
Fuck
who
little Timmy from
people
down
who
the
do
street.
that, I don't like the idea of people who do that and then ask you, why did you hit them? It's like, why the fuck do you think I hit them?
Like the dolls when they did life-size dolls at the toy store that came to life and ripped out of their packages.
Yeah.
Like those were kids. I would have been like, "Fuck you!"
Nope. I would have been grabbing I would have been like tilting the shelves down on top of them. Dude. I don't.
Like,
That's the whole fight or flight thing, and my mentality, if I'm ever put in that situation, is fight so I can flight. That kind of thing. But I don't know. So, but anyway, left-right game. I'm gonna let you and Devin kind of talk more about this. I might chime in with questions, because obviously I didn't listen to all of the episodes. But starting from episode 1 was essentially where the reporter girl met up with this guy, and they were gathering kind of a group, and everybody had code names and stuff. So, but hey, take it away, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, well, episode 1 started out, like you said, we meet our character, Alice, and what's the other guy's name? I always forget his name.
Rob?
Is it Rob? No, the her friend trying to save her.
Oh, yeah. The one that actually starts off where he gets hit by a car. That's how it starts.
Yeah, it starts with being hit by a car. I can tell you in a second what it is.
We should let you know that the version we're talking about that we listened to was the one done by Q Code.
Yes, by Q Code.
And
Q Code is the one we used. You also can, like I said, again, Dark Somnium did it. You can listen to his version. Both versions, I think, are really good. Q Code does have the cool sound thing where, like what we was talking about, where it does shift and has the Sonos sound, where it shifts. And the guy's name was Tom, by the way. Yeah, so I mean, either one's really good. one's available. You can find Mr. Creepypasta's Dark Somniums on YouTube. And I don't think he has a Spotify. I know you can find the Q code on Spotify, on their website, and on iTunes Store.
Yeah, Q Code you can listen to on any, because I listen to it on Podcast Republic. And
There you
pretty
go.
much it. Podcast.
There you go. Yep. I mean, I guess Rob, this is my second listen through. You're coming in fresh, so I guess for me, I want to hear from you, and then I'll chime in a little bit more too as well.
All right. I will do my best, because I'm going to have to keep muting because of the cute little doggy that sometimes I want to speak.
Dog's the best. What are you talking about?
So we started off with Tom being in an accident. We go through like him being in the hospital, and he's getting these emails from his friend, sending him messages. And for some reason, like when he gets hit in the very beginning, he starts saying something about Alice, and the emergency responders are like, "Alice, who's Alice?" So that kind of starts off with like gives you like something weird is already happening. So then he starts to listen to the first message from her, which is her traveling to Phoenix, Arizona to talk with a guy named Rob. And he starts to explain to her about his life, how he was in the army, and then he became like a ghost hunter. And he went to the suicide forest, and he saw a ghost there that was like made out of TV static. And ever since then, he's been like hunting ghosts or legends and stuff like that. So then he tells her that he found this left-right game posted on a website, and when he tried it, it actually worked. So he's gathered a bunch of people who are like paranormal investigators. There's two ladies who have a YouTube channel that are going.
Lilith and Eve.
Yep. An older couple. Not a couple.
Bonnie,
brother and sister.
Brother and
Bonnie and
sister,
Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde. Yep.
There's Apollo, who I don't remember exactly why he was there.
He's another like supernatural chaser guy. But man, Apollo, man.
And then there's Blue
Best
Jay,
character.
who doesn't say anything in the first couple episodes, and then there's Ace, who shows up almost like.
Yep.
Now, which one
Good
of
old-
them is the
Okay.
one who is really like starting to question the ferryman and his directions? Like in the second episode, they're like, "Oh, what if we just don't pick up the hitchhiker?"
That's
Like,
Ace. That was Ace.
oh, okay.
That was Ace, yeah.
Yeah, he paid the
Just
price for it. He paid the price for it.
Okay.
This is spoilers, by the way, peeps. Spoilers.
Well, I mean, what happened to him was really Blue Jay's fault too.
Well, I mean, a lot of things in this is Blue Jay's fault.
All right,
Again,
step
fuck
by
Blue Jay.
step, because remember, I didn't listen. So, and then the main guy, his name's the ferryman.
Ferryman, yep. So we have
And then-
his name is actually Rob. So we
Yeah.
have Rob. So names that are used and given. We have Rob, Apollo, Lilith, Eve, Bonnie, Clyde, Alice, Blue Jay, Ace, and then the other characters. But I'm trying to think what their actual names are. I think Apollo is actually might be Apollo. I'm not sure.
And then
Apollo.
they called
I called Alice
Alice
Bristol.
Bristol.
Yeah, Alice is Bristol. 'Cause that's where she's from. So Ferryman is Rob. Apollo. Do we know Apollo's real name?
I don't remember.
I don't think we found out Apollo's real name. I know Lilith and Eve call out their real names at one point, but I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. It's like a one-off line.
But
So Alice was from Bristol, England.
Yeah.
She didn't really have an English accent.
No.
No. Well, she is.
Her friend Tom does have an English accent through all of it.
Right.
Well, because she grew up. She's half and half. So she's. I think
Alright.
she's American, and then she's like English Caribbean.
All right.
She said. So that's like her background
they-
is, and
they-
she moved around a lot.
They say it
So-
in the first episode because she comes in and he's like, "Do you want coffee?" And she's like, she asked for tea, and he said, "You didn't sound English
Right.
on the phone."
Yeah, and then she explains why she didn't sound English on the phone. And yeah, I mean, she moved around a lot. She's been in America. Every now and again, she does kind of have like a slight accent, but it's definitely not anything I would call severe.
Right. So Bristol's the journalist, and she's riding with Rob.
Yes, she's riding with Rob.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, Bristol the journalist riding with Rob. So basically, it shows up. He gets hit by the car. Then after that, it kind of, I think it does. It cuts over to her, kind of just asking questions. So then she's kind of questioning Rob about the left-right game, kind of interviewing him about his story, about his life in general.
And I do like how some of the answers he gives are just like he's just like, I don't know. That's just the way it is. Like,
yeah, no, like that's a lot of it actually. Like he even says it at one point, like in the thing. He's like, yeah, no, like he's like, I don't know if it was at the part where you were at or not. He was just like, hey, this is the part of the road where I'm just gonna tell you to do things, and I'm probably you're gonna just need to do it. He's like, I can't give you an explanation why.
Yep.
Because it's just the way it is. Yeah, you should have saw that because that was right before the hitchhiker. When he was just like, "Hey, this is the part of the road where I'm just gonna tell you to do some things. I want you to do them."
Yeah, because when they first venture out on their thing, they're making their turns or whatever, and then he eventually tells her, "Okay, we're gonna be coming up to a tunnel, and this is where you need to decide whether you're gonna go through with this or not." Because
kind of really where you first get the creepiness. So you have the chick with the mirror. At first you're like, okay, that's a little whatever, right? Because she always pops up. I think you said in the 20. What turn was it?
He says sometimes she shows up later, but she's just always there.
Yeah.
It's not always at that place. He said she's always on the 34th turn, but that it might not.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, and then he's like, no, she's not always there, but she does. She always shows up, but not necessarily always on the 34th turn. So yeah. So basically, before you get, I really want to say 43 is sticking in my head. I really want to say 43. I think that's how many turns it is to get into the to the tunnel. I could be wrong on that number, but life goes on. A number between 40 and 60. There you go. But I have 43 sticking in my head. So basically, if you fuck up before then, it's kind of no fault. You just don't play the game.
Right.
But once you cross the tunnel, it's kind of like, okay, you're playing for keeps.
Yeah, you have to go back through the tunnel to get back to the real world. Because if you go off, it's dangerous, or you might not make it home, and you might not make it home. Travel in a vehicle. You can't go by foot for that point. Either.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, she stuck with him, and then they continued on, and I believe that essentially the next episode was all about the hitchhiker.
Yeah, I mean, so she did ask. She's like, well, what happens if you turn and the 43rd turn is an alleyway? He's like, it'll be a tunnel there.
Yep.
He's like, and that's kind of when you first get the real hint of the okay, this is super supernatural, because it's okay, no matter where you are, you're playing in Atlanta, you're playing in Tokyo, you're playing no matter where you're playing, there's always going to be that tunnel on the 43rd turn.
Now, okay, let me ask you this before we move on. The premise of this game is literally you have to take each left that comes up and then each immediate right that comes up and then vice versa back.
You have to alternate left, right, left, right, left.
Now,
right.
does this start pretty much the second you leave, say, your residence? Or can you start this from any point?
You can start it from anywhere.
You can start from any point. It just once you are hitting the consecutive 43rd turn is when it starts to do it. So you can drive
okay.
It resets the counter, so to speak.
I will tell you,
once you start it, you're in.
I will tell you, I played this mentally in my head by, turning left out of my driveway onto the road and then turning right. And then I mapped out pretty much where I'd go. It always just brings me back to my house.
Yeah, well, no, that's why. He said, so that's the reason why he moved to Atlanta. He said it in the thing. He's I moved to Atlanta specifically because it's one of the few cities built on a grid system.
Right.
That allows you to advance while doing it.
Right.
Like where you can always make the turn. So even in a situation where like you wind up back where you are, if the 43rd turn brings you right back where you started, there'll be the tunnel there regardless.
Right.
So you're gonna need to have that range. He's like, you can't access it from every city in the world. There's only certain spots that let you do it, mainly just because of how cities are laid out.
Right. All right, continue. I wanted to let you know that I did play this in my head, and I didn't get very far before I was back home.
Yeah, well, that's what he explains, that a lot of places you just end up at a dead end that you can't go any further. So that's why
Dead end, or like you're in like a business, or you wind up being in like a parking structure or a parking lot, or he's like, you're screwed. He's like, there's very few places where you can play it to completion to get to where you need to be.
Okay. So why don't you guys talk about this hitchhiker? Because he's essentially the first, after the tunnel, he's the first big thing that happens in this game.
Yep. So that's when Rob's like, "Yo, we're about to coming up ahead." Like they stop for food. Coming up ahead, he's like, "Yeah, there's going to be a hitchhiker. You're going to pick him up. This is the part where you're going to need to do things that I just tell you to do."
Yeah.
There's going to be a hitchhiker. You're going to pick him up. Don't speak to him. Just stop your car. He'll get in. Take him where he needs to go. And that's it. Don't speak at him. Don't look at him. Just don't do it.
Now this is episode 2, and each episode actually starts off back with Tom in the real world. And first of all, it goes to Tom, and he starts to realize that nobody else but him seems to remember. Because he talks to his mom, who knows her really well, and she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So that's basically.
Oh
what
yeah,
his
didn't
part
he
is.
also call like the place where she was a journalist at, and they had no records of her working there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been episode 3.
That might have been the beginning of episode 3. Yeah, like I said, I didn't get very far. I started getting chills up the back of my neck, and I don't like that feeling, so I just shut it off. It didn't help that it was pitch black in my house, but
He's like, it did not help that it was pitch black.
no, ask Devin. I was listening to these pretty late last night, so
Yeah, you were.
I don't know. So,
Yep.
All right. So is that the main rules for the hitchhiker? Is you pick them up. You have to pick them up. You can't just bypass them. You have to pick them up.
You can bypass them. You can bypass them. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I want you hold
Ace-
on. I'll let you explain that to me in a second, but I want to go over the rules clearly on this part.
Rob tells them that they have to pick him up.
Right. That was the part that I was
Tells
making.
them you have to pick him up,
So,
and not to talk to him, and that to take him where he wants is the thing.
and are you not allowed to look at him either, or can you look at him?
You can look at him. He recommends you don't, because you're going to be tempted to talk to him.
Okay, but you're not supposed to talk to him.
He
All
said
right.
it's best not to acknowledge him at all if you can.
Okay. All right, so then they continue on, and they, if the first ones that go, because they do this in waves, right? So they take turns doing this. They're not all driving right after each other.
He said that the hitchhiker doesn't like to choose cars when they all go together. Is the reason he gave. So they all had to go separately and each pick him up.
Okay, so essentially, Rob and Bristol go, or Rob and Alice, and this hitchhiker gets in, right? And if I remember correctly, he's kind of like a businessman, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he starts trying to make conversation with them, and they just are being very quiet.
Yeah. He's just like, "Hey, how's it going?
And
like,
then,
nice weather. What do you guys do for work?" And then they're not saying anything, so it gets like super awkward.
yeah. And then, like, he does some, like, creepy ass. I don't remember exactly the line, but he does some creepy ass. He, like,
lowers his voice when he says, "Bonnie's gonna fucking break." And Bristol says, "What?" And then Rob slams on the brake.
oh, so she did talk.
Yeah, well, she said what? Like, I guess you could convey that it wasn't directly to him. I mean, but yeah.
Okay,
So-
fair. And then he ends up, like, going through their glove box and finds, like, a photo of, I think, Rob.
Yeah.
And then starts talking to him about it, and he just doesn't acknowledge it, and he takes the photo.
Yeah, he's going, "Do you mind if I take it? It's okay if I keep it? Yeah? Okay? It's okay if I keep it?" Since he's
Right.
not saying anything.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
something
like-
to
it's like
remember
he
you by?
beat-
Yeah? All right.
He's being like super friendly, super nice, super friendly, super nice, and then all of a sudden he gets like super personal. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what Webby said was creeping him out. He'd be talking to you all casual. He'd lean in and say like some super dark personal shit like he shouldn't know.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
kind of
No,
like
no,
be like,
no.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
No, like there were times, and it didn't help. Also, I have this goddamn fan on rotate. I'd be listening, and then like once he got real close in like my left ear, the fan
Feel
would
the breeze?
rotate, and I'd get that breeze on the side of my neck, and I'm just like, no, I'm done. This is not good. I can't do this. I'm gonna end up having a fucking mental breakdown because of Devin.
I mean, that's not any different than what's actually going to happen anyway.
Well, hey. All right, so then they eventually, eventually he's just like, yo, this is fine, let me out here. And so they let him out, and they continue on, and then they start talking. And then, he radios into the next person saying, all right, come on through.
Well, Bristol also, she sees a crashed car on the side of the road.
Oh, that's
like
right,
down
yeah.
And she questions Rob about it.
Yeah, he says not to talk. He doesn't want to talk until they.
Right. And he seemed a little like, I don't know what was up with the crashed car. He seemed a little dismissive about it, and she went like afterwards. She went behind his back and she called one of the other people, which they couldn't make outgoing calls for a while. Everybody's phone was they just got busy signals, but she was able to get into radio contact with one of the other people and asked them to get some footage of a wrecked car while they were doing it. I didn't ever end up hearing the outcome of that, I don't think. But all right, continue on. I want to know what happens now after the hitchhikers. Like you said, one of them doesn't have to pick them up, or one of them didn't pick them up.
So Ace, our good friend Ace here, he arrives and he gets there and he's kind of like shooken up a little bit. Then they notice he's a little shooken up, and he starts talking to Rob, and it's like I don't know.
He says, Rob, what happens if you don't pick him up?" or whatever, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And then he tells them, he was just driving, he didn't pick him up, but then suddenly he was just in the back seat, and then
he started having these memories of the fact that he stopped and picked him up.
He's like, "But I swear I didn't. I just kept driving. He appeared in the back seat, and then the memories came later of pulling over and letting him in." And Rob's like, "Yeah, it freaks you out, doesn't it?" And he was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it was like the first or second time that he went. He didn't pick him up either." He's like, "It was very disconcerting to have him just appear in my back seat."
Jesus. Okay. So that's why he's very adamant that you have to pick him up.
Yeah.
You might as well pick him up because you're gonna pick him up even if you don't want to pick him up. So, man. Okay. Now, did anything else happen with any of the other people, or did everybody else essentially make it past the hitchhiker fine? I don't remember.
Well, I don't remember who you find out. You find out either in episode 3 or episode 2 that Bonnie actually talked to him. That's why he said Bonnie's gonna fucking break.
Yeah, see, I don't remember Bonnie talking to him in the second episode. So
that must be the next one where they find that out.
So what happens if you talk to this guy?
Well, like she keeps talking about this place that is supposed to be there's a cottage by the sea waiting for her in this town that she talked to the hitchhiker about, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it's a wrong turn. It comes up way later, but it's a wrong turn.
But they tell Bristol, and Bristol tells them to tell Rob, which she thinks they do, but you find out later that they just because they're over talking to him. So you think that they're telling him, but you find out later they didn't. So everyone's being tricked. And then the YouTube girls, are the ones that she has to stop and check out the wreck, or she just asked them to see if they could see it. They actually stop, get out, and go inspect the wreck, and find C4 in the trunk.
Jesus! With the hitchhiker in the car?
No, it was both.
This is after the fact. So after the fact, the burnt out car on the side of the road.
Okay.
They go back and investigate it, and there's C4 in the trunk.
Yeah. So they actually take some and show her.
Jesus. Okay. All right, now you guys can do the fucking pretty much the episode breakdowns for me because this has already just kind of gotten out of hand now.
Let me see. So that happened. That was episode 2. 3 was Jubilation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was the creepy radio guy.
Yeah,
so
3 was
at the end of
Jubilation, which was
episode 2, there's
interesting.
a radio show where it was like it seemed normal, but then there was like a whole bunch of screams and whatever, and then the guy's like, "Coming up next, at Jubilation, blah 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 blah." What he was talking about.
Yep.
Radio. So yeah, it starts off with her talking about the radio show. And then I think that's when you find out that Bonnie talked to the.
Yeah.
She's-
She's talking about the radio show, and then like I think halfway through the episode, she's talking to. She has a hunch about it, and then halfway through the episode, she winds up talking to what's his name? Clyde about it. She winds up talking to Clyde about it, and then she tricks Clyde into telling her like that tricks Clyde into telling her that
Oh yeah, she just basically goes up to Clyde and is like, "So Bonnie talked to the hitchhiker," and he's like, "How did you know?" And she's like, "I didn't. You just told me."
Okay, oldest trick in the book. You never fess up to somebody when you stick to your lie. You stick to your guns, man. So what was the jubilation thing all about? What was?
Well, Devin's muted. I don't know if he realizes.
I muted for a second, so he walked in my room. But yeah, so Jubilation. Jubilation.
Oh God, there's
was,
that Devin chuckle.
It actually isn't. It isn't. In my opinion, Jubilation wasn't that bad. What do you think, Rob?
I think Ace would disagree with you.
I mean, well, okay, Ace got fucked up, but that's Ace's fault.
Would I disagree
Oh,
with
it's Blue Jay's fault.
Everything's Blue Jay's fault. Everything's fucking show Blue Jay's fault.
So they're driving through Jubilation, and at first everything seems like they're driving through, and he's like, "Yeah." Rob's saying, "Oh, the folks at Jubilation, they kind of like stick to themselves. They're pretty okay." Blah blah blah. So then when they get to the city, though, like there's nobody anywhere. Like the school is empty. There's no one on the streets, and he's like, "That's really weird." So then they start on one of the turns. They turn down a residential street, and they find out where everybody is. All of them have their dining room tables out on their front lawn, and they're sitting and eating dinner. And there's always a mother, a father, a little girl, and a little boy is on every single lawn.
Okay, I'm all set.
So as they're driving, Bristol's looking down the side street that they're not going down, and there's like burnt out houses and wrecked cars and piles of clothes and shoes everywhere. And she's just like, okay.
Now, were there any special rules for passing through this town? Like everybody, this Rob guy seems to know all of the various rules for these.
He's done this before. We find out he's ran through this numerous times. Like he's been up to a certain point numerous times to map it out, and then he comes back.
Okay, so now are there any special rules for this place?
He lied about that because he said that he found someone online that had mapped it, and he does say he had done it previously, but that someone else had mapped it out. But you find out later that it was him and his son who actually mapped out everything.
Right.
But you don't know that at this point.
Okay.
But no, he's like, they're not usually like this. Kind of weird. So then they go down the next turn, and there's a huge tree across the road, which he's like, okay, this is not good.
See, even Matilda agrees that this is not a good plan.
So they start to go around it. Like, they have to go down like an embankment and back up with their cars. So they're going one by one. And then the ones at the end start yelling about a tow truck coming. So there's like a tow truck flying down the road, and Rob starts to get like upset, and he tells Bristol to get his like a box out of the car. And he keeps telling, he's like, "Come on, go, go, go. Let's get going here." So the tow truck's getting closer and closer. It's like flying down the road at high speed as cars are slowly going down the embankment around the big tree. So it comes down where it's just Blue Jay and Ace left. And Blue Jay just sits, and even Bristol's like, "What the hell is she doing?" So Blue Jay basically waits till the tow truck is almost on them before she goes down into the ditch. So then the tow truck ends up smashing into Ace's car. And so his car's all fucked up and he's like groggy and from being smashed into. But the tow truck driver, and I guess there's two of them, they get out of the car and they're like talking like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And they're like having just a regular old conversation. Oh, are you going to the blah, blah, blah next week? And blah, 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 and all that. And they're like taking chains off the tow truck. But they grab Ace. So then Rob's like, let him go. Let him the fuck go. And they don't listen. So he starts to shoot them. And they just keep having their conversation.
Yeah, they just have this casual conversation while they're getting shot at. While they're getting shot.
Oh, okay.
Not shot at. They're getting shot. And it's just like chilling there like, yeah, what's up? Yeah, you know.
So then they take the tow hook and shove it through Ace's skull and drive off with him.
Well. Okay.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So
It's
now
very,
nobody
like,
sees
Texas Chainsaw Massacre here.
it happen except for Rob and Bristol. Rob and Alex. Leave them. Purposely waited to see what would happen because she thinks all of this is a hoax. The whole road, everything. Like she's a buster. Like she like supernatural stuff. Like she like goes. I guess she's famous because they all seem to recognize her when she says what her real name is. And she's like a famous person that goes and like debunks stuff.
This is Alice?
No, not Alice. Blue Jay.
Blue Jay.
Oh, okay. So that's why Blue Jay waited?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she thinks it's all a hoax and she wanted to see what, if they would, like, how far they would go in this hoax. So she waited to see what would happen.
So what did she think when Ace got a hook through the head?
She didn't see that part.
Well,
and Bristol, she asked, because she's like, you're supposed to be a fucking reporter and you're believing this crap. And then Alice tells her, about what happened to Ace, and she's like, and you saw this yourself, but she couldn't watch. She like closed her eyes when it was about to happen, so she didn't actually see it. So the Blue Jay takes that as proof. She's like you don't watch. Do you close your eyes so that the magician can pick out your card and see what it is too, and blah 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 blah. So she thinks it's all like fake and like illusion, like they're doing it on purpose to fool her.
okay. And that was pretty much the extent of episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, continue. I think.
Episode 4 was what? What was episode 4, Rob?
Well, the beginning of 4, I know, is
This Ain't Our
Tom
World.
talking to the therapist. So Tom goes to see a therapist with his mom because she thinks he's crazy about this girl that nobody seems to know. He called like her old roommates in college, and none of them remember her. So the therapist asks him to play the tape. So he starts to play it, and you hear her saying, this is Alice. I don't remember her last name, but she says that for Northwest Stories and blah, 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 blah. So she starts talking, and they're just staring at him, and he's like, what? And then he realizes they don't hear anything. Only he hears it. So his therapist's like, we thought you sent us the wrong audio or something. She's like, but no, we don't hear anything. So he starts saying what she's saying, but they don't believe him. They think he's just making it up, or like he's having a psychotic break. So he's like, why am I the only one that can hear this? So then he's like, let me do one more thing because his mom wants him to just come home so that she can take care of him until he goes back to normal, basically. And he's like, let me do one more thing. If it turns out to be nothing, then I'll just come home with you. So that's kind of where that part is.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I don't remember.
I think that this is the episode where they have their argument because what's his name died, and then they're all like.
It says, as the sun sets on a traumatic second day, the convoy stops for the night. As tempers flare and motives are uncovered, the group must decide whether to leave the road behind or press forward into the unknown.
Yeah, so this is where they had the argument about who.
See, this
who
is my
did what.
contribution. I can read these little snippets for you guys, and you guys can get a memory jog. See?
So and then they tell Rob, they yell at Rob because they said
Do
you
they
didn't
yell
tell us that we
meatloaf or pancakes?
know.
Oh.
I wish they did.
Rob,
C's touchy juju.
meatloaf.
They yell C's touchy juju, and
Oh,
that's
jeez.
it. But no, they argue about him not warning them that it was dangerous, and he was like, well, the last time I was here, it wasn't dangerous. He's like, I don't understand what's different. He's like, it might be because there's so many of us. But he's like, I never said it was safe. He's like, but I didn't. But they're like, you didn't tell us that we could die. Blah 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 blah.
It's because
So
fucking
he's like-
so and so talked to fucking the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
She jinxed it all.
So he's like, well, you guys have to decide by morning if you want to go back or continue on. So they're like, okay. So like they all take the night, and there's more like talking and stuff. I think this is where she finds out that Bonnie talked to the hitchhiker actually, because a lot of stuff happens. It's mostly talking at night in this one.
Okay.
But she also sneaks off with the C4 to charge the phone that sets it off to see what happens. Which one of the YouTube girls wants to go with her. She was the one that had the phone charger, and she's like, no, I should do this by myself in case it goes off. It's best if it's just me. And she's like, well, don't tell my partner because she'll want to go with you. So she gives her the phone charger. So she goes off and charges the phone, and there's actually text messages sent to the phone saying, don't do this. I don't remember. There's a couple of them, but they're basically all the same. Like, don't do this. Where are you? Think about this. Blah, blah, blah. She's like, okay. So then there's a phone number that tried to call it. So she calls that number back, and it's Rob's phone that rang.
Okay.
So she takes mental note of that. So then when she goes back, she tells the YouTube girl about it. So the YouTube girl that she talked with, which I think was Eve, wants to go back, but Lilith wants to keep going. So they decide to keep going.
It was Eve.
So Bonnie and Clyde decide to keep going. Blue Jay's like, you're not getting rid of me. So, and then Apollo was like, yeah. So they all decide to keep going.
Okay.
So now I don't know if this is the episode with the wrong where they were chased by that thing and then end up passing the turn, or if that's the next episode.
Well, I can tell you the next episode is called Something New. A visit from a psychiatrist casts doubt in Alice's very existence, and then the convoy begins their tentative third day. As the journey continues, Alice discovers that the road has a strange effect on those who travel it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's where they learn that what you call it.
So did
The further you go.
Yeah,
But-
and stuff like that.
So did the
They
misturn
don't have-
happen in the episode before this?
No,
Oh, all right.
it must be. So that night must have just been the night of talking in the C4 and talking about the hitchhiker and all that. So this episode, yeah. So she's like, we haven't had, because she discovers that the gas gauge hasn't. She's like, how long have we been on the road? And he's like, 6 hours. She's like, the gas gauge has barely moved. He's like, I was wondering how long it would take you to notice that, or if you even would. And he's like, did you notice that almost no one ate anything? So they found out that like the further along the road you are, like the less you need to keep going. So he's like, okay, so the road is both trying to spit us out and keep us moving forward. And he's like, yep. She's like, why? He does that thing, and we're, who knows? This is just the way it is.
Okay. Now does this get explained why later on at all, or does this remain a mystery?
I mean, sort of. Not specifically why, but kind of, I guess.
Okay, all right.
But anyway, so I'm pretty sure this is the episode where as they're driving and they're about to make another turn, there's a car coming up the road like super fast, and like they're yelling about the guy in the car, like how he looks, but no one ever describes how he looks, which is one of the like I did have a couple problems with this because there wasn't very descriptive about some stuff where I'm just like, okay, like I guess they're trying to make it so your imagination is more like, oh my god, I bet it looks terrible because they're like, oh my god, look at his face, blah 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 blah, but then they don't describe what it looks like or anything, so it's just like I guess it's up to your imagination. But anyway.
Okay.
So they're being
I can
chased.
say that this is getting an Amazon show approved at some point, so we will get our description there.
So Lilith and Eve are freaking out because Blue Jay's the only one behind them, and Blue is just like, whatever. So they freak out and they drive in front of Rob and Alice, but they're driving so fast they miss the next turn. So they go flying, and Alice is like, their car just stopped. It just stopped out of nowhere. He's like, okay, well, let's go around the turn, and then we'll come back. So the rest of the cars go down the turn, and they walk back to except for Rob's car. He stops it before the turn. So the rest of the cars go down the turn. So their car is kind of like a little ways down the road after, like sinking into the road, like it's quick. So they try to get out, and then her boot starts to sink her boot off before she gets sucked in. So then they get up on the roof, and they're trying to figure out a way to get them back over. So they throw them a rope from the winch in front of Rob's truck, but they miss, and it falls inside the car. Because they were going to like hand over hand it across.
Right.
But they're too far out, and the rope, like I said, they missed the rope. So Apollo decides to drive halfway across so that they can jump to his car rope from, like, he's going to take the rope in his car, what's left of it. So he drives, like, partway out there.
Yeah, and then gets violently shut down.
Yeah.
By the road.
Yep. So his car starts to sink now, too. So the girls jump from their car to his. Lilith does it fine without a hitch, but Eve freaking knocks Apollo onto the road. She's actually standing on him as he sinks, but she manages to get back on the car, so he gets sucked in to the road. And then Lilith does the hand-over-hand thing and manages to make it to the others, but Eve refuses to even try because she's scared. And I was like, freaking bitch.
Yeah, right. I'm like, you killed Apollo for nothing.
Sit there and do nothing.
You killed Apollo for nothing.
Now, this is all happening because they missed the turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they can't just turn around and go back and do that turn?
Nope.
No, because their car started to sink into the road. They couldn't move.
Yeah, like, they couldn't go back. So, like,
Right after the turn, the
if
road
you
turned
can
in
make it
quick.
back, like, what's her name made it back, and no, she had no ill effects, really, after the fact. At least that were prevalent. If you can make it back and go on the correct turn, it wasn't that they actually no. See, if you make the legit wrong turn, you probably just die. We find that out later when what's her name fucking goes down the road. She just fucking dust. But they just missed the turn. They didn't make the wrong turn. They just missed the turn.
Yeah.
So like
So
they're
they
supposed to turn
continued.
left. They just went straight, and then they like passed it by like a couple of feet, and they were like, "Fuck." And then their car started to sink.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason the car stopped was because it instantly like started to sink as soon as
Yeah, the
they
ground turned into quicksand. It was just like, nah, fam.
So mental note, if any of us try to go do this left-hand turn game, we need to use a truck.
It wouldn't matter.
Like a big mud truck with a winch.
It wouldn't matter.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's cute though that you think
better.
we would. I know it would make you feel better. I mean, because that's what what's his name had. He had a winch. That's what Rob had. He had an outfitted Jeep with a winch and everything on it.
All right.
So that's where basically where that episode ends.
All right. So the next episode is Rob Gutherd takes on London. The aftermath of the Edinburgh trip unfolds. Oh no, that's not it. Hold on. Stray thread. Within the halls of Edinburgh University, a final attempt is made to find any trace of Alice Sharman. As the fourth day on the road begins, an unexpected encounter fractures the convoy's loyalties. In the ensuing fallout, Alice considers what she's willing to do to ensure the group's survival.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What happens in this episode?
Well, the Edinburgh one, because he goes to where the school, and he looks up a newspaper article that he and her were both in,
Right.
and it was front page story. So he asks for the newspaper when they give it to him, but the story's like missing. Like the front pages is blank. And he's like, "How is this blank?" And the lady can't explain. She's just like, "I have no idea. This is very weird."
Yeah, like it. Yeah, he's like no idea. He gets really upset and starts throwing stuff.
Okay.
He's not a happy camper.
And they won't let him in, so he breaks in and looks at her record, which is almost completely blank. Like her page is still there, but it's almost blank except for the name of her parent. And like alarms are going off, and then the cops catch him because he's all crippled from the accident, so he can't really run fast. But
Okay.
yeah, so he breaks in. Her news story's gone. Her student record is gone, but like there's blank spaces where she was. Like it's not like she's completely gone. It's just, well, I mean, it's like she's completely gone, but like nothing else filled in where she was. Just like she vanished.
Now,
But there's still proof that she had things. They're just empty.
let me ask you both this. If I ever went missing, would you both be this dedicated in finding me?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, if I remembered you, yeah. Like you
That's
find out
good
there's
to
a
know.
reason. There's a reason that he's the only one that remembers.
Okay. And then as far as the convoy goes, what's this unexpected encounter that fractures the convoy's loyalties? And in the ensuing follow, Alice considers what she's willing to do to ensure the group's survival.
Don't remember.
Let me see. Hold on. Sure.
Is it because of Bonnie? Is that it?
Is that the one where? No, that's not the. That's not the deer yet.
No, the deer
That's
is like
where-
8.
Yeah, that's where Bonnie. I think she.
Yeah, this must be the episode where Bonnie tries to go the wrong way.
Yeah,
and they have to
Bonnie
tie her.
tries to go the wrong way, but Bonnie does go the wrong way. So Bonnie tries to go the wrong way. They realize that she's going crazy, and they grab her and basically duct tape her ass to the car.
Yeah.
To the car seat, so she can't. But then fucking Bluebird, Blue Jay, whatever the fuck her name is.
Lets her free. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they come across the town where the hitchhiker told Bonnie that she would have a seaside cottage waiting for her that she's been talking about the whole time. So they go past it because they're going. They turn the other way because it's a split, and they're supposed to go to the right, but the town that she wants to go to is to the left. So when they go to the right, she like starts panicking. She calls and she's like, "You made the wrong turn," which freaks everyone out. And Rob's like, "Wait, what? We made the wrong turn?" So everybody like freaks out, but then they realize that they didn't make the wrong turn. That the town that she wanted to go to was the other way. That's why she was saying they made the wrong turn. So then you find out. This is where you find out that Bonnie and Clyde didn't tell Rob that they talked to the hitchhiker. He's like, "You knew about this?" to Bristol, and she's like, "They told me they told you. I watched them talk to you." And she's like, "They never told me anything about them." So then they zip tie Bonnie's hands and stuff because she keeps trying to go the other way towards that town. So like Bristol's feeding her soup, but she knocks the soup all over herself. So then Blue Jay's like, she's like, "You're tying this woman up, blah blah blah." She's like, "I'll go get you more soup, Bonnie." So she goes to get her soup, more of the soup, and like she's freaking out because she thinks it's all fake. So she's like, "Why are you tying this woman up with zip ties? All this is fucking fake." Blah 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 blah. So then in the middle of the night, they hear a car start taking off, and they realize that Bonnie got free. Like her things are melted, her bonds are melted, and she's speeding off. So they chase after her, and they come to a stop. But she had stopped just over the line of the other way, and like she's basically disintegrating.
Okay.
Like her body's like flaking away into like dust, but she's like she's like, "I'm fine, everything's gonna be fine, there's a cottage waiting for me," and like Clyde keeps telling her to come back. She's like, "You're just over the line. Just come back." And she says no, that she's gonna go, and that she hopes that someday they'll see each other again. So then she gets in the car and drives away, and they're all just like, "Okay."
And she just dusts.
Well, she was dusting, but she drove over the lot, like. So,
Yeah. All right. So the next episode, the title is Rob Guthard Takes on London. The aftermath of the Edinburgh trip unfolds as the search for Alice starts to have unintentional effects.
Was it the end of the episode, or was it the previous episode where or this episode where Clyde joined her?
I think it was the next episode, but Edinburgh is Tom. It's not the road.
Right. And as the fifth day begins, the final two cars enter uncharted territory. Alice makes a crucial discovery as new and old threats reveal themselves.
It has to be this episode that he does, because the final two cars, and this is basically where we find out this is the last spot he's been to. And anything after, and this episode, you find out basically where they made camp was the last thing he had mapped. Everything else was new for him, so he had no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this episode, like in the middle of the night, Clyde, I don't remember what she was doing.
I think she was up in her journal doing journal stuff.
Yeah. For some reason, she was the only one awake, and she here's Clyde, and he's like, "I'm going to join Bonnie, basically, and you're not going to be able to change my mind," and blah, blah, blah. So she tries for a little bit, but then she's just like, "Well, do you want company?" So then they walk and they talk about him. He talks about his life with Bonnie when they were kids and stuff, and most of their life, until they get to the edge of the road, and then he kind of just like, I knew that I should. He's like, as soon as she went, I realized I should have followed her, but I knew the rest of you wouldn't let me go. So then he kind of just steps over the line and walks the way that she went. And Bristol says to him that she hopes that they find each other, and he's like, "I hope you guys find what you're looking for." So then she turns and goes back. So then when everyone else wakes up, they're like, where the freak is Clyde? So then she has to explain that she walked with him and let him go, and they're all like mad at her. We'll talk to her.
Bitch, you done fucked up.
Like, he was depressed and you just let him go. Of course he's depressed. His sister, he's known his whole life, just like died, and now you let him commit suicide. Blue is like, you fucking should have just shot him in the head.
Jesus. Now, what's this new and old threats reveal themselves part? Alice makes a crucial discovery as new and old threats reveal themselves.
New and old threats reveal themselves.
Will it help if I read the premise of the next episode so you can kind of gauge what that might be?
That may help you.
So the next episode is I'm Not Playing Anymore.
No, that's I know what that is.
The search for Alice reaches an impasse on the doorstep of her family home. As night falls on the forest, Alice is forced to fight for her life as Blue Jay hunts for Rob's car keys. As the pair battle for the upper hand, Blue Jay proves that she's willing to do anything to leave the convoy and the left-right game behind.
Yeah. So this episode is the one where they run into the deer. The one
Yes.
that we're on.
Yes. Okay. Yep. This is the deer episode.
So without Clyde, the rest of them like kind of eventually move on. So all of them, Rob and Bristol and Lilith are in Rob's car, and Blue Jay's by herself. So as they're driving through the forest. Like Devin said, Rob the beyond this point, that this is as far as they've ever gone. So on one side is the forest, on the other side is like a large embankment, like a long one.
Mm-hmm.
So as they're driving, all of a sudden this deer runs out in the middle of the road and they hit it. So Rob gets the gun and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go put it out of its misery." And she's like, wait, no. And he's like, it's better this way for it. If you don't want it to suffer. And she's like, no, it's not that. So then you hear like this baby crying, and I guess like they don't really describe anything, but I think a baby crawls out of the deer's belly, like
What?
a human baby.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
what? A what baby?
Yep.
A regular baby?
Yep.
Baby, yeah.
Like a normal human baby?
Yep.
Was wearing a deer suit?
No,
Mm.
not wearing a deer suit.
And you said this show's getting a show? This thing's getting a show?
Amazon show. Yep.
Not watching it.
Yeah, you are.
Nope.
Yeah, you are. We're doing it. We're doing an issue on it. It's happening. Sorry. It's happening.
It's gonna have to happen in the month of October.
Well, I mean, I don't know when the show's coming out, so it's very possible.
Well, all right. Continue,
then-
baby deer. Gotcha.
So then they're like, so Rob's freaking out, and the Blue Jay's freaking out because she's like, because she still thinks it's all fake. She's like, you used a fucking baby, and she's so
Blue Jay.
Rob. They're like, oh, we can't leave the baby here. So Rob's like, okay, I'll get it. But then they're like, more deer are coming because you hear them like doing that, woo, like they're cries in the woods. So he's like, you guys get in the cars. I'll grab the baby. So then you hear just like a thundering of hooves, and the cars are like shaking, and they're like, she's like, oh, Blue Jay's car's going over the edge. And they're like, oh, no, she'll be fine. All right, hold on. So then when the deer pass, Rob comes back to the car, and they're like, did you get the baby? And he's like, I couldn't reach it. The deer, he's like, I don't know where it is. It's just gone. So, but then he goes to help Blue Jay out of the car because her car's like teetering on the edge. So he manages to get her out before, well, no, it doesn't fall. He manages to get her out, and they're coming back to the in the dark. And I think it's the baby, but it's like a toddler now, and it's like really creepy and trying to kill them.
Yeah,
Nope,
it
I'm
is
good.
Tyler.
I'm good. I'm glad I stopped listening at episode 2 with the creepy hitchhiker.
So they realize though that it doesn't like the light. So Blue Jay and Rob are in Blue Jay's car's headlights. So then the baby starts like trying to knock the car off the cliff so it can get at them.
I'm sorry, what? Baby Hulk now?
Well, it's a child now, but it's like
It's a toddler child now, who is
Toddler Hulk. So we had deer into human baby into toddler Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they almost get to the car, but then the Blue Jay's car falls off the cliff, and so drag her away into the dark. So Rob chases after it, and you hear like, and Lilith and Bristol are freaking out in the truck or the Jeep.
I'm telling you right now, if I was in that, I'm not getting the fuck out of that Jeep. I'm locking the goddamn doors.
So you hear like a bunch of gunshots, and then they both come back, and he's like, Blue Jay, are you alright? And she's like, it was a fucking child, Rob! A fucking child, and you shot it! So she's like freaking out.
Wait, so hold on. So she's freaking out at him because he shot this kid, but this Hulk kid knocked her car off a fucking ledge and dragged her away.
Yeah, she's not dealing well with the fact that still, like, her mind has snapped onto that this is all prank, and that they're fucking with her.
Okay.
Like her brain isn't allowing her to accept that this is real, so she's like almost gone psychotic. So
Gotcha.
she grabs the gun from him, shoots him in the leg,
Oh my god. Okay.
tells Bristol and Lilith to get out of the car, or she's gonna kill him because she wants to take the car. She's like, "You guys can fucking walk home. I'm taking the car. I'm getting out of here. Fuck this. I'm going." So she's like, and Bristol's like, "We can't let her have the keys because she's gonna leave us here." And like, because they know it's real, so she's like, "If she leaves us fucking here, we're gonna die. Can't let this happen." So she tells Lilith to take the radio and run for the woods, and that she's gonna do something. So I can't do this, and she's like, "Yes, you can. You're gonna fucking do it." So then, as they get out of the car, she runs to the woods, and Blue Jay's like, "Where are you going?" But Alice is like, "Hey, over here. I got the keys." So she turns back to Alice. Killing. So I forget what she says, but Alice is like Blue Jay's like, give me the keys or whatever, something about like almost like, I win, you didn't get me, blah blah blah. And she's like, "Oh no, you didn't." And she takes the keys with her and jumps off the cliff.
Wait, who did this?
Bristol. She
Bristol took the Jeep keys and jumped off the cliff.
jumped off the cliff. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Tilly.
So now everybody's fucked.
Well, I mean,
So
she kind
was
of
that the end? Was that the end of that episode?
Yeah. So the next one is the
All
one
right.
about. Yeah.
So
That was the end. Her jumping off the cliff was the end.
the next one's called "The Only Way Is Through." As the doubt about Alice's existence is seemingly answered, one final question remains: what now? Then, as Alice and Rob head deeper into uncharted territory.
No, this is the episode.
Oh.
This is the one before that. This
Yeah,
is,
that's
I'm
the
not
that's
fucking
the.
playing.
I'm not playing anymore. Alice
This
is
is the
forced to
episode
fight
without
for her life as Blue Jay hunts for Rob's car keys. The pair battle for the upper hand. Blue Jay proves that she's willing to do anything to leave the convoy and the left-right game behind.
Yeah. So that's this is the episode we're about to go into right now.
Okay, all right.
So yes, so Alice jumps off the cliff. She manages not to die. She's very beat up though. She goes to Blue Jay's car to get the other radio.
So wait, hold on. Clear something up real quick. The left-right game. There's no rule about going off the road. You just have to continue making the left and the rights in the vehicle while you're driving. That's the only rule. Okay, all right. Continue then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't get home on foot.
Right.
If she tried to go back to on foot, the left, right, you can't. You have to be in a vehicle, but you can move around without it.
And apparently, there's a bunch of deer out here giving birth to human Hulk babies. So
Yeah.
All right.
So she goes to get the radio out of Blue Jay. Jay sees her and starts firing at her down the hill. So she manages to get away. She contacts Lilith in the radio. Lilith says that she's in a clearing in the woods car, and Bristol's like, "All right, I'll meet you there. I have the keys. Then we'll figure out what to do. We'll get Rob. We'll get Blue Jay away from the car, whatever." So she makes her way back up off the cliff, and Rob is by himself. Blue Jay's not there, and he's mouthing something to her that she can't really understand. So she gets closer, and he says radio. So then she tries the radio, and she says, "Bristol calling all cars," and then she realizes it's coming from the car too. So Blue Jay heard their whole conversation about where Lilith was, and that she was waiting for her there, that she was going to go meet her there. So she's like, "Fuck, we're screwed." So she's like, "Oh, I have an idea." She puts Robin in the car. She gives him the med kit. She's like, "Here, try to do what you can for yourself. I'll be back to fix it more later." And then she goes off into the woods. So she ends up getting to the clearing. Blue Jay has Lilith and with the gun pointed at her, and she's got a flashlight in her face, in Bristol's face. And she's like, "Give me the fucking car keys. If you try anything at all, I'm going to shoot her. So just give me the keys. I'm not playing this fucking..." She's like, "I swear to God, I'll kill you. No one will blame me after what you guys have put me through. Blah, 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 blah." So she's like, "Okay, fine, I'll give you the keys." So she had put the keys in her backpack. So she takes off her backpack and she goes to open it. She's like, "Don't fucking open that bag." She's like, "Just toss it to me." So she tosses her the bag, and I think Lilith tried something when she went to catch the bag. I think Lilith either tried to run or tried to slam into her. Again, it doesn't really explain. But you hear the gun go off, and Lilith gets shot. And so she's like, "Oh, I see you tried to throw a thing, and she distracts me. Well, now she's dead," or blah, blah, blah. She's like, so then she starts shooting at Bristol again, who runs into the woods. And she's like, "Bristol, I could kill you without even one shred of remorse or anything. I'm just going to fucking kill you." And she's like, and Bristol goes, "Yeah, I know you." So then she takes out her phone and starts to dial, and I was completely turned off by this, because I was like, "What, is she trying to call the fucking police?" But what it was she was activating the C4, which was in the backpack.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Boom. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, I did not even see that coming.
D4 in the backpack. You never
So
see
she-
it coming.
So she blows up. What's her face?
Yeah.
What
So
about the
Blue
car
Jays
keys?
up. They were also in the bag. But so she goes back and Lilith is still alive, but she's dying. So they talk for a little while. And she's like, I wish I had known you longer and stuff like that. But then she died. So then the kid shows up.
Oh Jesus, the Hulk kid.
Yeah. So
Jesus Christ.
At first you can't really tell what's going because you just hear noises and she's like, oh my god.
See,
blah,
I
blah,
think
blah.
that would freak me out the most.
So she apparently he tries to take Blue Jay again, and she's like, "You can have her," but then she's like not moving. So you hear Bristol's like, "She's sleeping. It's okay. She's just sleeping." Blah blah blah. So then he like freaks out. But then she gets the flashlight working. Took the flashlight from Blue Jay and she had it, so she gave that to Bristol. So she manages to like drive him off with the flashlight. So then she sees the static ghost in the woods, just like he saw in the suicide forest. But she realizes that it's him because it's like shaped like him. And when she reaches out, which he described the ghost reaching out to him in the forest. So then she's like, it was me he saw all those years ago. So then she starts to realize that like everything that's been happening was leading up to them being on the road. Like the road itself wanted them there. Like a bunch of things happened that like forced all this to happen.
So him seeing the static ghost in Suicide Forest in Japan was him actually seeing Bristol, but as a static ghost, and then her seeing the static ghost is actually her seeing him as a static ghost.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Because it's like, I guess because they look like static ghosts because it's like such a time difference,
right?
In actual, so that's the way they explained it or whatever.
Okay.
But to the car, and she tells him what happened, and he's like, we should probably go back or whatever. And she's like, no, I'd like to go. Oh no, she collapsed. I forgot. She passes out, and then she wakes up and she's in the car, sans, and she's missing an arm.
Well, I'm sorry. What? Why is she missing an arm now? Did the kid come back and take it? No,
I don't remember how she either injured her arm in the jumping off the cliff, or she got shot by Blue Jay or something. Like her arm was in it, but he said by the time he found her, he had to remove it. That was the only thing he could do because it was so messed up. I don't remember why her arm's up. It either had to do with the fight with Blue Jay or jumping off the cliff or something.
I'm gonna think it's the kid.
Or maybe the kid.
Yeah.
It could have been. She was attacked by the kid too, so maybe that was. Until she got the flash. Ran away. Well, yeah, because the kid ended up being dead because he said that he buried all the kids, Blue Jay and Lilith.
Okay.
But I think this is the next episode.
All right, so the next episode's The Only Way Through. As the doubt about Alice's existence is seemingly answered, one final question remains: what now? As Alice and Rob head deeper into uncharted territory, Rob's history with the road is revealed. The pair are forced to consider their place within the left-right game as they encounter their most daunting landmark yet. This is the second to last episode.
Yeah. So, this episode, well, previously Tom had gone to see her parents, who also don't really remember her, but they're like, why do we have this room that's all full of stuff that we have been... Because they're like, why have we made the decisions that we made in our life? Why do we have this room full of stuff and picture frames of us, just us, for nobody, and like these things in this room that neither of us like? And like, so they're like, every time we open this door, it feels like we forget why we were coming in here. So they're kind of like, your explanation makes more sense, even though we don't remember her, that we had a daughter. It kind of, makes more sense. Like, you make sense of it. But they're both very unhappy. So that's kind of like he's like, okay, I'm not crazy. She did exist. So he feels better about himself, even though they don't. Right?
Okay.
So the dad tells him, if you don't find her, don't ever come back here again.
Wow, that's rude.
Well, it's just because they don't want to be reminded of it if she can't be found. So that's why. Like it's better explained in that episode. I'm just crunching it together in sentences, but yeah.
I mean, no, that's good. Sorry, I had to step away for a second. People keep popping out of the room. But yeah, no, I mean, I think you did a pretty good job in that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So in this episode, he goes to Phoenix. Tom at the beginning flies to Phoenix.
After that wonderful conversation with his mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where he's like, I never would have gone anywhere. You're always asking home, and he's like, and I was fine with that until now. Now I feel like I need to go places. So he ends up flying to Phoenix. And at the time I was like, you're gonna freaking follow the left-right game? So, but yeah, so he goes there again, looking for.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
And his arrival there, I think, and then
Alice and Rob.
Yeah. So they are traveling more. This is where you find out that it was Rob and his son who mapped out most of the things, most of the road. Although they haven't, like, this is beyond where they had gone. That at first they were afraid to stay overnight. Like, they only went on day trips as far as they could go, and then went back. Then they finally got the courage to like stay overnight and do a couple days worth. And then that his son's wife ended up wanting to come along and do it too. So you find out that he didn't actually find it on a message board. It was his son that discovered this. So he was the one that actually started it, was the son. So then you find out that the crazy lady on turn 34 is actually his son's wife. Because one day they were supposed to go back, and she said that she wanted to stay, that she wasn't going back near the wood where the clearing was, where Lilith died. Where she decided that she didn't want to go back, she wanted to stay on the road forever. So then she started appearing at that turn every time, and his son tried to talk to her, but it was like she was like just saw through him, like she didn't recognize anyone, and she's always just ranting no matter what he said to her, no matter what he did. So then he went back to the road to look for her. And he's actually the one that bought the C4. It was commercial grade for demolition. So his last time, if he couldn't find her, he was going to blow up the tunnel so that no one could come in again or be hurt. So you find out that Rob discovered this plan, and he's the one that was sending the text messages about don't do this, blah, blah, blah. He actually, he drove his son's car off the road and killed him.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah. And then she asks him, why did you do it? Were you trying to save him? Were you trying to save yourself? Because you'd be trapped on this side if he blew, because he was on the crazy side. He's like, Did you do it because you'd be trapped on the crazy side? Did you do it to save him? Because he was like, I knew the only way that he could blow it up is from this side, or he would be in the tunnel and blow himself with it, which is what I think he planned to do. And he's like, and he's the one that drove him off the road, but he didn't realize that he was already injured, and he ended up dying from being driven off the road. And she's like, did you do it to protect him, or were you trying to save him, or were you trying to save yourself? It's like, to tell you the truth, it's actually neither. I was trying to save the road. And he's like, this shouldn't be cut off. Like, people need to be able to come here. Like, it should be explored and blah, blah, blah.
I disagree. When deers give birth to Hulk babies that try to pull you off the road and kill you like Chucky, that's a hellscape that no one really needs to travel. So
then as they're talking and stuff, they come through the mountains at the edge of the forest, and they go up in the mountains, and they come back down and out, and there's a giant salt flat that like goes on as far as the eyes can see, and in the middle of it is a big, huge city. So eventually they get to the city, and it's empty. Like there's like it seems like there should be people, but there's nobody.
so
then they're
drivers.
all of a sudden they start yelling about things coming. They don't describe what the things are, so I have no idea. I was picturing giant cows the way they sounded, because it was like almost like hoofs, and then there were like bells every once in a while, like dig dig. So
Okay.
my brain was like cows. They're being surrounded by cows. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, because they never describe what they are. But whatever they are, they're like after sound, and she knows it somehow. Bristol's like they're following the sound. Turn the car off. So they turn the car off and they throw the rest of the C4. Oh no, she said she tries to do the C4, but they don't have any way to activate it now because she used some of it to blow up Blue Jay.
Right.
They don't have a blasting cap and they don't have the phone to activate. So they had something else that exploded. I don't remember what they were. So they ended up throwing that, and it exploded, and all the things went and they were burning because of the sound. They were after the sound, whether it was destroying them or not. She's like, so I don't see how we're going to get through this, because they obviously didn't kill all of them that way. But they stopped chasing the truck, and they just sat there in silence. So they were talking more about how the road actually orchestrated all of this. Like they were doing like more examples. Like she tells them about the forest and how it made him do this, and how she ended up. And he's like, I think the road wants you here. Why else would you be the one that suddenly knows like about these things, even though you've never crossed them? It's like, yeah, I don't know. So he's like, I think it's been waiting for you all this time. So then she starts to fall asleep, and she's like, what is the matter? So he actually drugged her. He's like, it's fine. It's just like falling asleep. So she passes out, and then she wakes up to him on the radio. He's like, Rob, to all cars. Ferryman to all cars. So she finally wakes up, and she's like, Rob, what are you doing? He's like, we're surrounded by those things, and you know that you're supposed to get through here and not me. It's like, so I'm up on one of the roofs. I'm going to big old ruckus, and you're going to drive up, continue on the road. So she tries to talk him out of it, but he's like, no. He's like, it's your decision. If you want to keep going, you keep going forward. Or if not, you turn around and you go back. He's like, whatever direction you decide to do, I'll pull the things in the opposite direction. And she's like, well, which way did you go? And he's like, well, I think I know what your answer is, so that's the way I went. But if you change your mind, I can easily get the other way. And she's like, no, you don't have to move. He's like, I thought not. So then he sets off a big like sound, and all the things go after it. And she continues forward down the road. And that's how that episode ends.
And then there's the last episode, which is the end of the road. On the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, and the otherworldly highway of the road, two long-lost friends approach a final crossroads, and then both have a choice to make: to keep going on the road ahead, or turn back to the world they know. However, a few ultimate revelations remain, just a few turns away, which may have already made their choice for them. Okay.
So
Complete
this
this
one kind of
story
like
for me.
So this one weaves in and out with Tom and Bristol. Like normally it does Tom first and then Bristol's part. So this is kind of like changing back and forth to their points of view. So it starts out with Tom. He finds a lady that does like paranormal stuff, a bartender, and apparently he had already talked to her because she mapped out like where the mirror store was and where the tunnel should be, and backtracked to find Rob Guthrie's house. So he decides to go and try to find where the tunnel was. So he drives there, but it's not there because he didn't do the left-right game. He just drove directly to the spot where the tunnel would be. But then he starts to go backwards to get to Rob's house. So after that, they cut to her. She meets the son's fiance, the real one, the one that's been trapped inside the road, not the crazy one at the mirror corner.
And Rob's gone by this time?
Yeah, she's driving and she's talking, like she's leaving him messages on his answering machine as if she's talking to him. She's like, it's not that different because if I was actually talking to you, you wouldn't answer me anyway.
Okay.
So she's telling about how, like, as she's driving, the moon is breaking apart into several different pieces and floating away. She's by a giant lake that seems unending, and when it's night, you can't tell whether the lake and the sky are different. And she's like, and I know if you were here, you would say, maybe they're not. So, but then like she comes to a point where she hears someone yelling for help, and she realizes it's the woman. She keeps saying she's stuck in the lake. She's like, I'm stuck, I can't get out. And she calls her Alice, and she's like, how do you know my name? So then I'm not sure exactly what happens, because again, they don't describe things well. A whole bunch of voices just start calling Alice, and then it sounds like she's running, and then they cut away. What happened? So then it goes back to Tom, and he is doing the left-right game backward. He realizes, and he ends up at Rob's house. So he's like, I realize that I've been doing the left-right game just from the opposite way. He's like, so if I take the next left, tunnel should be there. So he goes around the tunnel, and he starts to tell a lame joke that he goes around the next corner. He starts to tell the lame joke that he told the therapist about the guy driving backwards on the highway, which I didn't. Whatever. But then he cuts off mid-joke, and he doesn't say anything. And then there's a lot of sounds of driving. And I don't know what happened, because it makes like driving sounds for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And then he says something like, I knew she wasn't there. And that's all. And it cuts off. And I'm like, what? I don't know what happened. Like, some of the things frustrate me about this story. Like
Wait,
that. I don't know what happened.
Is this the same? This isn't the same lame joke he told at the very, very beginning about the broken legs, is it?
No. It's
okay.
the one where he's like a woman. The joke was a woman sees on the news that there's someone driving backwards the wrong way down the highway. And that's the highway her husband takes to work. So she calls him up and said, honey, I just wanted you to be careful. There's a psycho driving the wrong way on the highway. And the husband says, one psycho? It's like 50 million psychos. So you find out that, like, basically he's the one that's driving the wrong way.
Gotcha.
Is her husband. So that's the joke he told. But then, he's like, I wasn't trying to make you, to the therapist, he's like, I wasn't trying to make you laugh. I wanted just to explain, like, how I feel. Like, I feel like I'm driving the one way and everyone else is driving the other, like, trying to explain his search for Alice. But so he starts to make that joke again, and that's when he just cuts off mid-joke, and then there's a bunch of driving sounds, and then for, like, at least 2 minutes of driving. And that's all. And then he says, I knew she wasn't there, which I'm not sure if he's talking about the mirror lady or Alice. Because before that, too, he says he didn't see her, but he wasn't sure if he looked at the right turn or whatever. And then he just says, I knew she wasn't there. So I'm like, is he talking? I don't know what the driving was. Like, did he find the tunnel? Did he not find the tunnel? I don't know. It's just like things like that frustrate me, because I'm like, they don't explain what happened. Did he find the tunnel? Did he not find the tunnel? Talking about Alice? Did he talk about the mirror lady? I don't know. So anyway, but it cuts back to Alice, and she's digging in the ground, and she's burying. Somebody says, "Thanks for burying me." It's the wife, but like again, they didn't explain. Like I heard was a bunch of voices calling her name, and then like running feet. And now suddenly she's just burying this woman. I don't.
Okay, so she's burying the wife. All right.
Yeah, but the wife's talking to her. So then she's like, that the road had showed her a vision. Like she's like, why did you stay? And she's like, the road showed me a vision of a woman traveling by herself, old places, and blah blah blah. She's like, and I thought it was me, but I actually think now that it's you. She's like, and then when she's like, no one's here looking for me or whatever, and she's like, no, he is. He's looked for you the whole time. I think he's still on the road looking for you, meaning the husband. She's like, but the road is so long, and she's like, but you're both looking for the same place, so eventually you'll find each other. And she's like, yeah, you're right. So then she starts walking off like the other way. So then she comes to another tunnel, and there's like this weird echoey voice that is basically the road personified, I guess. So they start talking about why she's there, and she says a bunch of cryptic crap like you're here because it was inevitable, like somebody has to go the farthest ever on the road, and that somebody is you, like. So it's kind of just like almost she's kind of just saying it was destined that you were going to be the one to go on the road the longest. She's like, you'll go to untold places, you'll see answers to questions that you've never even thought to ask. And you'll basically like travel forever. She's like, you know that you don't need like you get your food. You can't be injured now because like her arm healed. Like it didn't grow back, but like the wound healed almost like overnight, basically. She's like, you can't. You'll just like travel down the road for centuries to where the road, all that's left is the road, basically. She's like, but this is the point where you can turn back before you enter through the second tunnel. Like it's basically the same as the beginning, where if you pass, you have the chance now to go back, or if you continue through the tunnel, like that's the kind of things that you'll see. She's like, and I'm pretty sure I know which one you're gonna pick, because otherwise I wouldn't have like arranged things for you to be here. Tell you.
Okay. So now is she invincible now?
Well,
or if she continues traveling on the road, will she be?
Yeah, kind of. I guess almost like she's gonna become a god.
But she'll never be able to come back.
But that's what she says. She's like, there's reasons to go on and there's reasons back. Because the reasons to go back was she warned her that if she went forward, no one in her life would remember her. And she's like, so she's like, Alice starts being like, oh, my parents, they're gonna, all my friends, I don't know that I can leave them. I promised them that I'm home. And she's like, well, yeah, that's what it is. She's like, if you continue on, you'll see things that you never saw, both horrors and splendor. About you get knowledge like ahead of without even having like done the thing or learned it. Like she did, how she knew those things were being attracted to sound. She's like, it's already happening, but through here, like better and better.
Right, but what's the point of knowing all of these things and having all of this knowledge and seeing all these things if you're the only one experiencing it at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And she can't share this with anybody else.
I mean, that was that's what they said. Reasons to go forward, reasons to go back. Because Alice even said going forward was because she does decide to go forward. Obviously, that's why I got her. She says it's going forward is selfish, but I'm going to do it because I want to see what's out there. I want to see it and know it all. Basically.
So Alice is the road.
Yeah, I mean, I guess eventually. So, but then before that, it goes back to Tom before she makes her final decision. So his decision is he sees Rob, he finds Rob, and he realizes from her message because he left on his answering machine that he heard because he's been getting the audio files was, if I could find a way to save you, I would from the city. So he realizes that the only reason he remembers is because she wanted him to save Rob, not come after her. So, but then she gives him the choice. Like, he's kind of transported back in time like she was when she saw the ghost in the suicide forest. And it's him walking down the road. And he's like, he realizes that at that point, he didn't remember her. He only remembered her after the accident. So then he's sitting in the car with Rob, and himself is walking in front of them. He realizes that this is the accident. Like, if he hits himself with the car, then he'll remember Alex. But if he chooses not to, he can walk away and not remember her like everybody else.
So he hits himself in the beginning.
Yes.
This is fucked up.
In the best way possible.
They had to add time travel into this to some fashion, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's your favorite thing, Webby. Why wouldn't they add it in?
Oh, my nose is bleeding.
It's your favorite thing. Why wouldn't they add it in?
So that was his choice, whether he wanted to remember her. Because if he chose not to remember her, then because before that he was complaining about like why am I the only one that remembers? If you didn't want me to follow you, why are you doing this to me? I'm crippled now. I remember this. Like, my life is terrible. Blah blah blah. So then that's when he realizes she wanted her. she wanted him to rescue Rob. But then she gave him that choice. Like, if he chose not to hit himself with the car, all of that would be erased. He never would have gone to look for her. He never would have got hit by the car. None of it would have happened. But he also wouldn't be able to save Rob. So he has to choose whether he wants to remember her and save Rob, and still remember his friend, because otherwise he won't remember. Or if he wants to just go on blissfully with his life, not remembering her, not being involved in it.
And let Rob die a horrible death to sound hunter monsters.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does he decide to do?
I mean, it doesn't specifically say, but you hear the car speed up, so I'm guessing he decides to hit himself.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, smart man, I guess.
Yeah. And then that's pretty much where it ends. Like, Alice talks about how she was being selfish, decided to go down the road, and that she's going to keep going until there's nothing left but her in the road.
Now, once and if she chooses, which she did choose to continue, if she chose to continue, she can never come back.
Yeah, that was what the told her. Basically, if she went through the second tunnel, there was no going back ever.
You'd become one with the road forever.
All right, so that's a lot to take in. I'm going to let you know right now, even if I had continued listening past the hitchhiker, I would not have made it past the little child Chucky baby deer monster.
You would have been fine.
No, I would not have been okay.
You would have been fine. Mebs would have been fine.
Now, let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity, essentially, if you were given the opportunity to see things that you couldn't even believe, or that you couldn't even imagine, or to learn things and to answer questions that you didn't even know you had yet, and to pretty much just become this like fountain of knowledge, essentially. But at the same time, you're doing it by yourself. What would you guys choose? Would you continue on the road?
I probably would not have.
Nah, fuck that road.
See, I agree. Like, it's one thing if you're traveling with people, like if you had a group of friends or whatever, and yeah, it's a journey you guys can take together. But I don't understand. Like, I guess there are people out there who just want to have the knowledge.
After what happened to Ace, at that point I would have been like, "Nah, I'm out. Take me back. Take me back to the fucking tunnel."
Well, the second tunnel did tell her, "Hey, now you're pretty much going to be immortal. Like you're invulnerable to everything." I'd go around like punting little deer babies across the road constantly, just because I know I could. But
yeah. Plus, also there was like untold wonders and horrors in there. I was
horrors, yeah. No, I don't think so. I'm set. I'm never playing this game. Just so you know. Devin, are you ever going to try to do this left-right game? All it is man hopping in the car and driving.
Well, you got to find the right city. If I can find the right city, I'm down.
Well, you just got to get a map, go on Google Maps, and make sure that you can actually do the specific amounts of lefts and rights to be able to get to that tunnel.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Because you essentially only need enough to get you to the tunnel, correct?
Yep, I'll do it all day.
Ugh, that's rough. I wouldn't want to lose you, man. I'd be like the guy from BBC. I'd be like the friend from fucking the beginning of each episode, just looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, come on, guys, where's Devin? Everybody would be like, who? Be like, fucking Devin. And then Austin would be like, who's Devin? Then I'd have to fucking slap him with my pimp hand. I'd have to show him that strength. I don't show many people that strength, Devin, but I'd have to bust that out if he forgot who you were. I'm gonna knock that info back into him the hard way. I mean, this was... I feel bad that I wasn't able to listen to all of them. Like, I couldn't force myself to do it. But it was a fucking journey listening to essentially you guys explain the episodes and chime in, and whew, man, I don't know. But we are on almost a 2-hour mark at this point. Now I will mind you, there are 10 episodes of these. For those of you who want to watch this, there are 10 episodes of these. Each of them about 47 to 48 minutes long, so anywhere between 45 and an hour. Um, Devin, do you have a website that you can kick out there real quick, just to give people, if they want to go to the website and listen to these?
Q code is the one that would do it, but
So
no,
that would be qcodemedia.com
Yeah,
/
or
the left right game.
pretty much anything that
the
you
left
listen.
right game simplecast.episodes or .com/episodes. There's like any number of ways you can make that work.
Yeah, like if you anything that you listen to podcasts on, if you search Q code, left right game was like the third one down for me, and then they had the Brasco one also recommended.
Okay. I mean, I don't recommend it only because I think it's creepy, and I don't like creepy stuff. But if you are into creepy things, yeah, I'd say give it a listen. Yeah, you might enjoy it. I know my mom likes creepy stuff, so I'll recommend this to my mom.
I'll recommend it to your mom for sure.
So, but yeah, I want to thank both of you for recommending it and Rob going through each episode in detail for me. You definitely did the job of filling in all the blanks, so I knew what the rest of the story was beyond where I stopped, and not getting too freaked out having listening to it.
No problem.
So, because I could only imagine sitting at my computer fucking at 1 o'clock in the morning in the dark, and then hearing like this little kid shuffling around in my left ear, and then to my right ear, and then back to my left ear. I don't think so.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, I liked it. The voice acting is good. The sound effects are good. The only thing I didn't like is where they just let sound effects take over the story, and you had no clue what the freak was happening. Right. Mostly the last couple of episodes that happened, but it did happen throughout.
All right. Well, now that we're about at the 2-hour mark, I think that's where we'll end the episode. Closing remarks from Edquist and Devin on the left-right game.
I mean, I'd say listen to it. I recommend listening to it. I think it's great.
Devin recommends it, and he's going to map it out and try it.
Yep.
Edquist, would you ever try this?
No.
Oh, good man. Smart.
I mean, I might try to the point where I saw the tunnel, and I'd be like, fuck, no. Nope, not going
Then
to
just
that.
pop that shit in reverse and make a wrong turn somewhere else.
I would at least do it. I would at least do it up to the tunnel and at least see like what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I don't know, man. I'd be real creeped out if I actually tried it and then on that, like, whatever, like the 43rd turn or whatever, I actually did see a tunnel. I'd be like, no. Because, like, up in New Hampshire, man, you're going to make, like, a 43rd turn or something, you're bound to come across, like, a covered bridge, which is technically a tunnel. It's like, no, not doing it. So, I'm a scaredy cat, though. Listen, listeners, I talk a big game. I don't do scary very well. You put a weapon in my hand, I'll deal with something coming at me, but I'm like hearing things and feeling, my mind gets into it, and I start feeling like things are like crawling on me. I don't think so. I'm good. I'm already freaked out. I'm freaked out talking about how I get freaked out. So now we're gonna do sign-offs because I want to end the goddamn episode here.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, Devin said that you'll be better with Broska, but I'm not sure because I don't think you'd even get through the first episode.
I'm telling you this, Baraska is not like supernatural horror at all. It's not anything like overly. It's nothing that you can, if you've seen CSI, you can deal with Baraska.
I have not seen CSI.
Okay, NCIS, CSI,
NCIS is filtered in with jokes and stuff. It's kind of
lighthearted
has that
too.
murder.
Baraska has that too. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
No, like I used to listen to all like the true crime and like
You'll be fine, Webby.
the serial killer,
You'll be fine, Webby.
podcasts and learning all about
You'll be
serial killers.
fine. Exactly, you'll be fine.
I
Don't
like
worry about it.
all
You're
that
fine.
stuff,
Then you're fine. You're good.
but I
You're
don't know.
fine. You're good then.
Is it based off of any type of true story,
I really hope not.
or is it just
think so.
completely fucking made up?
I really hope it's not based off a true story.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
I
I'll
mean, the
give it a
first-
try. I'll give it a try.
Episode had like he
I would say this though. Don't if you're gonna listen to it. Yeah, I like the Q code, but they haven't got that far. I would
Here.
just listen to it from what you call it.
I'll tell you what. Give me like
no
a real
doubt-
brief synopsis of the
video
first
show.
episode.
I mean, I wouldn't break it down into like so they break it down in episodes, right? The Q Code Media guys, they break it down and they do their thing, but they're not nearly done. Like Baraska is.
I'm just saying he noped out on the radio show from
He's fine.
the
He's-
left right game, and
He's
then
fine.
but like
So Baraska is 2 hours and 43 minutes. Like narrated by Mr. Creepypasta is 2 hours and 43 minutes. Their first episode of Baraska is oh, they have 3 episodes out. Okay, there you go. They got 3 episodes out. So they're what? How many does he tell me about Whitney? Is 36 minutes. So here you go. All right, you want the first? I'm going to give you the synopsis of the show. Sam Walker moved to the town of Drisking, Missouri one summer and quickly befriends 2 other kids, Kyle and Kimber. While Sam's sister Whitney disappears a few months later, he passes 5 lonely years wondering what happened to her. When more people start disappearing, suddenly the 3 take it upon themselves to find out what happened to all the disappearing people. What connection to the disappearance holes within the mountain outside of town.
I will tell you right now, the scariest part about that synopsis is that it happens in Missouri. I'm just saying.
Episode 1.
doesn't even disappear in the first episode.
Parole officer about his childhood. 12-year-old Sam Walker moves to a small town in the Ozarks with his family after his father is reassigned to new sheriff's department. Something screams in the mountains there, but his friends won't tell him what or who. A family friend goes missing.
It's a Wendigo.
The episode has screams. It has things they call the skinless men. It has the creepy poem. I'm telling you, Webby's not going to get.
I'm telling you, but once you find out what that is,
It's a Wendigo.
once you find out what that is, you're going to be like, I kind of wish it was just something supernatural. Like, because it's just like people are fucked up. I could spoil it, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
It's like
no.
cannibal Native Americans up in the hills.
I wish. It'd be nice. I
Well,
like cannibal Americans up in the hills.
all right. It's a Wendigo. It's literally the first episode of Supernatural put with a twist and tossed into a creepypasta.
But nice try that.
All right. Well, we're gonna log off there. So
Roscoe's the one, or honestly, if you wanted to do one, if you wanted to have another creepypasta episode next week, I'm not
hey,
gonna actually
listen,
listen to
don't
all-
force me into these things on a weekly basis.
I'm not. I'm not.
I need
Well, no,
space.
that's why I was going to say we should do. I dared my best friend to ruin my life.
I need space and a hug.
I was going to say I dared my best friend to ruin my life. We can do
That's
that next
also
week.
a creepypasta.
It
does not
it's
matter.
not.
It's a
It's not.
creepypasta.
Webby.
It is done by Mr. I'm looking right at it. It's done by
Webby.
Mr. Creepypasta.
It's fine. It's not a creepypasta.
You're pressure. I need a hug. I need an adult.
Webby, I'll give you all the hugs in the world, but I promise you that won't scare you. That you're
Listen,
fine.
I need an adult.
You're fine,
So
Webby.
Devin, we need life advice with Devin, and don't make it
Life
about
advice with-
creepypasta.
I won't. Life advice is when you think you're scared,
You're making it about
suck it
creepy
up.
stuff.
You're fine. I'm not.
No, I want something. I want something bright and positive
Bright and positive.
that has nothing to do with it being creeped out.
All right, let me think. I mean, I haven't had anything bright and positive in my life in a long time, so
I'm right there with you, man.
it's hard to be positive right now. Always double check. Always double check your webcam when you're gonna watch porn.
You know, okay, first, yeah, that is decent advice, first off. Second, I thought you were really going to go, always double check your backseat. It's like, Devin, I told you not to get creepy with this.
No.
I'm
Always.
like turning around into my kitchen, make sure nobody's staring at me. It's fucked up. I
No.
don't know.
I'm not gonna do that to you, man. I ain't that mean.
But yeah,
I won't
double
do it
checking
to
your
you like
camera
that.
before, going on to
Watching
porn sites,
porn.
that's a good
It's
thing.
always good. It's a good tip.
Like,
Good
for
tips.
whatever reason, mine's glowing blue right now. I might hang a little rag over the top of it or something. I don't know. I
Mine's
think it's
always
'cause
perpetually looking up at the ceiling.
yeah, well, my life advice for everybody, pick your battles. Just in general, in life, pick your battles and take the small victories where you can. That's it. So, next week, unknown what we're going to be doing this on. Potentially this creepy pasta of I dared my best friend to ruin my life. So, Rob, if you want to listen to this one as well, you'd be more than welcome to hop back on next week and we can do another SU. Um, but until then, Rob, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at confessor_x and someday again on Twitch at twitch.tv/confessorx.
And Mr. Devin, where can people find you at, sir?
You guys find me at Twitter at DMP_Pookie and on Twitch at PooKilledMe. And on eBay, waiting on packages.
Okay, you've done it for so long, it just doesn't feel natural if you're not on eBay anymore. Man, switch to Amazon.
I use Amazon too.
No, then let's find you on Amazon sometime, maybe next week. And as always, everybody, you can follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one word, on Twitch at DMWebby, also all one word, and on Instagram at Patrick.Webster52, where I post sometimes funny little meme things that I find on Google. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this slightly extra long episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
I like to point out that Webby was worried that we wouldn't get an hour out of this.
Yeah, originally. But originally I also thought that the left-right game was only the first episode of this thing.
I was like, no,
And
we're good.
Then you're like, no, it's all 10. It's like, oh, I'm definitely, yeah, okay. And thank you guys for listening. We love you. Stay safe. And until next time, fuck Booster Gold.
Booster Gold.
Fuck Blue Jay.
Picture in Discord to cheer you up to.
Yeah,
And
that's
Blue Jay.
Fuck you,
Yeah,
Jay, yeah.
fuck the Toronto Blue Jays. What?
Oh, whoa.
Oh, John's not gonna like that, apparently.
Not at all. Not at all.
I saw his picture today with all the Toronto gear on.
I don't like that at all.
Welp. Love you, John. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Those fighting words, boy.
The Blue Jays.